Welcome back to the Veal Echo, where every story hides a darker flavor than it first appears. Tonight, we unwrap Japan's most twisted Valentine's mystery, the day sweetness turned into something truly sinister. Tokyo Valentine's Week. The streets glowed in neon pink and red, hearts glittering in every store window. Lovers walked hand in hand beneath paper lanterns while soft rain turned the pavement into a mirror of light. At the center of it all stood Sakura Confections, Japan's largest candy empire, a symbol of love, tradition, and perfection. But no one knew that inside its factory walls, something was beginning to rot behind the sugar-coated smiles. Workers moved mechanically through long rows of chocolate molds and candy hearts. The scent of caramel and cocoa filled the air, masking the faint smell of burnt sugar that no one could explain. One manager, checking samples late into the night, noticed deep claw-like scratches across a tray of glossy red candies. He laughed it off, stress maybe, until he saw a shape move in the reflection of the steel tank behind him. The security cameras caught it first, a blur, a flicker, a shadow that twisted between the machines. At first, the footage was dismissed. But when the night shift began hearing whispers in the hum of the conveyor belts, the fear spread faster than melted chocolate. Then came the newspapers. Japan's candy empire under attack. Machines breaking, candies turning black overnight, boxes disappearing from locked storage. Police found strange melted sweets on the floor, sticky black and pulsing as if alive, and just like that, the sweetness of Valentine's began to sour. Detectives were called in. Under the pale glow of factory lights, they uncovered the first true clue, a single candy heart with a faint symbol etched on it, a symbol from an old Japanese legend about the kami of bitterness, a spirit born from unfulfilled love. The connection sent shivers through the team. Could a Valentine's candy have awakened something ancient? The factory owner denied everything, insisting it was sabotage from competitors. But his trembling hands and sleepless eyes told another story. He often stared at his office window where, he claimed, two glowing red eyes stared back at him from the reflection of the factory floor. A flashback whispered the truth. Years ago, a young worker mixed a forbidden ingredient into the Valentine batch, a rare herb once used in love curses. It was meant to make people fall deeply in love. But instead it created something that fed on love itself. As the Valentine's night approached, the city's air grew heavier. Candy stores closed early and couples whispered about a monster made of sugar and sorrow walking Tokyo's alleys, dripping with sweetness and rage. And somewhere in the dark, the first scream echoed through the candy factory, the sound of sweetness melting into horror. This was the beginning of Japan's worst Valentines and the birth of the candy monster. The next night, Tokyo was no longer glowing with love, it was trembling with fear. The candy empire that once filled the city with sweetness had turned into the heart of a nightmare. The air around Sakura Confections was thick with smoke and rumor, and the sound of police sirens had replaced the laughter of lovers. Inside the factory, everything smelled wrong. The scent of sugar had turned sour, mixed with the sharp sting of something burning. The once spotless floors were now streaked with melted chocolate and footprints that didn't belong to any human. Detectives moved carefully under the flickering fluorescent lights, their flashlights slicing through the fog that rolled in from nowhere. Candy boxes lay scattered, their wrappers torn like the remains of some strange feast. A detective crouched beside a trail of half-melted candy hearts. Each one bore the same symbol, the same cursed mark from the ancient legend of the kami of bitterness. He looked up at the factory walls, where Valentine's posters fluttered in the breeze from a broken window, their smiling couples now twisted and ghostly under the flicker of red warning lights. On one of the security monitors, the footage replayed again and again. A figure, blurred, monstrous, its body made of sugar and syrup, slid through the darkness like smoke. It had no clear face, only two glowing eyes and a faint, rhythmic thumping sound like a heartbeat made of melted chocolate. News spread fast. Headlines screamed about the candy monster. Crowds gathered outside the factory gates as reporters tried to capture a glimpse of what was happening inside. Panic spilled into the streets. Candy stores across Tokyo closed their shutters, heart-shaped chocolates left to rot on display shelves. Meanwhile, inside, the factory owner sat in his darkened office. His reflection trembled in the glass as he whispered to himself, "It wasn't supposed to be like this." On his desk lay the original recipe, his family's secret formula for the Valentine's candies. The same recipe that had been changed years ago, the same one that had been cursed, and now that curse had taken form. The monster wasn't just haunting the factory, it was growing stronger. Every piece of candy, every chocolate heart that carried the mark seemed to pulse faintly, feeding it. The city's sweetness had become its power. And as police and scientists searched for answers, the truth emerged: the cursed candy had been shipped all across Japan. That night, the city lights dimmed. Somewhere in Shibuya, a couple opened a box of Sakura chocolates, only to find the pieces sweating black liquid. In another district, a child screamed when a candy heart began to move in her palm. By midnight, Tokyo wasn't celebrating love anymore. It was drowning in it, a twisted, corrupted form that turned desire into terror. The monster appeared again, emerging from the factory's molten core, its body dripping with caramelized rage. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum of war. And as the first explosions ripped through the factory, one detective whispered the city's new nightmare. Valentine's has turned into vengeance. The sweetness was gone. Only the fear remained. Tokyo woke to silence. The city that once glowed pink with Valentine's joy now lay under a cloud of smoke and melted sweetness. The Sakura Confections factory, once the beating heart of Japan's candy empire, was nothing more than a skeleton of twisted metal and scorched machines. Red mist drifted from its ruins, carrying the faint scent of burnt sugar and sorrow. Police tape fluttered in the cold morning wind as investigators combed through the wreckage. Among the shards of glass and scattered chocolate hearts, they found traces of something impossible: melted sugar hardened into shapes resembling human hands. The candy monster was gone, or perhaps it had only changed form. Detective Kaito stood at the edge of the ruins, holding a small, heart-shaped candy between his fingers. Its color had faded, but the cursed mark still glowed faintly beneath the surface. He knew the story wasn't over. The legend of the kami of bitterness didn't end with destruction. It demanded a sacrifice, and someone somewhere had paid the price. Flashbacks flooded his mind, the first victim's scream echoing through the factory, the owner's pale face as he confessed the truth. The curse had been born from his greed, mixing an ancient love charm into his candy to make people crave it endlessly. But love, when forced, becomes poison. That poison had come alive. The city tried to heal. Days passed and workers began clearing what was left of Sakura Confections. Yet strange things continued to happen. In the misty mornings, they heard faint whispers in the ruins, like laughter made of sugar and pain. A few swore they saw a glowing silhouette moving through the fog, its body dripping with molten caramel before fading with the sunrise. Weeks later, a new candy shop quietly opened in a small Tokyo alley. Its sign read simply, "Ion no AI, Eternal Love." Inside, the shelves were lined with heart-shaped chocolates that looked eerily familiar. Behind the counter stood a young woman, smiling softly as she handed a sample to a passing child. But when the sunlight hit her eyes, there was a flicker of something unnatural, something that glowed the same red as the monster's heart. Detective Kaito, now retired, walked past the shop one rainy evening. The sweet scent drew him in, familiar and haunting. He saw the same symbol etched into the candy boxes. His pulse quickened. He stepped closer to the glass, and in its reflection, just for a moment, he saw her, the monster's glowing eyes staring back at him from behind the display. He stumbled back into the rain, heart-pounding, realization sinking in. The curse was never broken. It had only found a new shape, a new disguise. The sweetness had returned, but this time it was smiling. As the camera pans over the quiet streets of Tokyo, the lights flicker, and a faint voice echoes through the night. Happy Valentine, forever. And so ended Japan's sweetest nightmare, the curse that